Hello, hello, collective. All right. We are in the month of April. It is courage. Yay. It's also my birth month, so it always makes me happy. Yay, even more happy. Um, and one of the reasons why we use courage now in this like progression of things that we are doing through the year is this idea of like, as you go through growth, usually you get to a point where you need the courage to like expand even further, right? Like you need that. It's like you see the growth, you see the space, like where it's going to, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Ooh, what's the next big leap?" Right? Like what's the next tier? And that's where a lot of times we get stuck, right? Like that's where you like hit that ceiling. That's where you like upper limit yourself. That's where you know, get and go slide a little bit backwards. And so that is why April is the month of courage. And I think it's going to be very fun, very interesting. I think planetarily, the universe has shifted a little bit, so that helps pull us back together. Everyone I'm talking to feels like this week was one of those like, all right, it's happening and things are moving and things are kind of like coming together. So I don't know, I like it.
Yes, I think it's like an activation period. Like we are in Aries season, which is fire. I also don't want to forget that courage comes from Latin corticum, core, which means the heart. And so I think it's also a season of like, we're in our brains so much as humans, and that activates our nervous system and that makes us into flight or fight. But when we go into our heart, courage, when we do things from our heart, then we're amplifying the desire, the intention, the core like spirit of what we want to do, rather than like thinking about all the fears, all the obstacles, all the things that can get in our way when we're creating. And so I feel like having courage right now after a season, like for me, the first quarter of the year is like very like review, for plan. And now this is like action, like literally lights, camera, action time, but from your heart, not your brain.
Yeah. And I love like it always does come back into like tapping back into your heart, right? It always is that space of like tap in. Like right before we started like recording, I was like, I love the like Solange in alignment, right? Like I love the like, because that is that space of like coming back to your heart, coming back to like, oh, this is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and this is why I'm here, and this is like how I want to show up in the world. And that space is an interesting space, right? Like that piece of like really in the knowing, like feels like there is such expansion in that.
100%. The expansion always comes from the heart-centered space because the brain is here to protect us. So the brain, when you're living in your brain space, like in human design, they say we make no choices from our brain because the brain is here to protect us. And so like this month is all about what is it going to take for you to drop into your heart, not worry about the fears that we already know exist. Like you've been living with all the stories of fears, but what is it going to take for you to drop into your heart and do the thing? And Denise says by heart, I mean purely in my feeling. Yeah. And it's interesting because we also need to make the distinction that your feelings. I was on a Mood Ring Monday a few weeks ago with Vanessa Codorniz, the Biz Bruja, and she's like, your feelings are not facts, but they're real, right? But they're not the facts. You're feeling something. It's usually feedback that something's in alignment or not in alignment. Word of the day for Solange. And it's learning how to drop into your heart and say, okay, where do we go from here? Not from here.
And where does that fear piece come from? Right? I think that like a lot of times, like we think the fear comes like is the fear trying to protect you from something, or is the fear trying to like keep you small? Right? So like in that piece of the fear, like is the fear just in your head and in the space of like we're just trying to make sure you don't die?
Oops.
Sorry, in the space that you will not die, right? In the space that you're gonna like, but like most of that stuff is not really true, right? It's like
feelings are not facts.
not facts, right? And like, you don't have to believe everything you think, right? Like those are those like pieces where you're like, oh, just because I have that feeling of fear, it's like, or that fear could just be excitement, right? Or that fear could be like something that's like, oh, move cautiously, but it doesn't mean you have to stop moving, right? It's like, okay, now access the courage to step forward.
I also think about how like sometimes the fear is like just the fear of the unknown. And like you don't know what the results are, right? And so it's like, well, my experience is like sometimes people don't get courageous enough to go beyond the fear because they're like, well, what if it doesn't work? But it's like, great, that is one of the fear thoughts that you can have. But like, have you actually entertained dropping into your heart, knowing what your intention is, and feeling what is possible, even despite the fear, and pushing yourself in the boundaries? I think of like courage is about pushing the boundaries. It's like saying, I know that this, like up until now, this has been scary. And who's going to be the one, like you said before, to take the leap, to take the jump?
And I think a big piece of it is like being okay with the failure too, right? Like you don't always have to win. You always have to win. Like it doesn't have to be like just because you're going to do something, it doesn't mean that you have to do it and is successful. Sometimes you change your mind along the way. Sometimes you see the writing on the wall and you're like, this isn't going to work, right? But you've learned a ton of stuff. And then like having the courage to go like, ooh, we're going to maneuver this a little bit around it, right? Like it's like the space of trying to access, like, am I trying to gain enough information? Am I trying to like pull enough things together so that there is no possibility of failure? And that's fucking impossible. It's impossible. Like there's a million things that you're never going to think about. Like you're never going to know. You're never going to be, there's like every single thing I've ever been anxious about, most of those things have not come true, but the things that have like been the biggest blows to my system and my whole self, I did not imagine. So like my anxiety is not saving me from shit. It's just like I can't imagine the things that are gonna come. So like, there's a piece of it. All right, it's good. It's good to work those things out. It's good to have an emergency action plan. It's good to like be like, okay, let me like think of the things, but also like, am I holding myself back? Am I holding myself in the fear so that I can gain more like knowledge and more whatever that is the piece that's like upper limiting me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and the like, what is the like, I think about that idea that like when you're not being courageous and you're not taking a chance on yourself, then you're getting a payout somewhere. You're getting a payout as like playing small. You're getting a payout and being right and justified about things not going to work. You not be like finding the truth, like being justified and like, well, it wasn't going to work anyway, right? Like there's always some kind of payoff that's not working for us in not being courageous. And that's why, like, for me, when I think about courage, is about dropping into your heart, because your mind's like, well, yes, I wanted to be safe. I'd rather be safe than like do the hard thing. And then the courage tapping into your heart, like knowing that it comes from your heart, really goes, what am I willing? Like when I think of courage, I also think of like battle, right? Like the courageous warrior, the person on the battlefield. Like what is it going to take for you to be that heart-centered warrior for the life that you want?
Yeah. And I think that like when you think of the person that is most courageous in battle, right? Like if we're going to romanticize battle and all of those things, and like let's go back to like fighting with swords or something that's, not going to kill you from super far away, whatever. Okay. So like let's say that you're, in that space, like those knights or those people that are in that space, they believe so much in their cause that they are willing to die for it, right?
Devotion. They were devoted to the cause. Courage leads to devotion for the life that you want.
And can you be in that type of devotion for yourself and for your business? Ooh. Right? Like, can you step into that kind of devotion, right? Like, my big thing always is like, I want everybody to fucking win. I want everybody that surrounds me to fucking win. That's it. I don't Do I really care about money? Not really. It's not a big motivator for me. I wish it was a bigger motivator for me,
Says the
but it's not.
Taurus. Says the Taurus.
Like, listen, I love money. I love to get money. I am good
But
at
it's not your
acquiring it,
motivation.
but it's not my motivation, right? My motivation is like when I can see my purpose and my people around me fucking winning. Like, it makes me so happy. And then I have more courage to go out into the world and spread more of that, right? So if I'm in that space of like, if I get to be in the space where I'm connecting people, I'm getting to be in the space where I get to help people achieve their dreams while achieving mine. If I get to have a space where I get to see like every single thing growing around me and that energy and that excitement, like I'm in the fucking zone, right? Like I am there and I like don't even think about stuff. When I have to be in the zone of like putting together sales funnels and like mapping out like how things are gonna whatever, not my zone of genius, y'all. Not my zone of genius. But in it, when I get to step into like what I love doing, it's all from the heart. And I'm like, oh, you should know this person and you should know this person. And that's how this gets connected. That's how this thing works. And that's how we build a better like culture and collective and community and all of those things where it's like, oh, everybody can fucking win.
Mm.
And that like the shift between the like, you know, the space between like the hustle culture and the space between like flow, I feel like it is this like understanding like where your hustle is and where that shows up like from your heart, right? Like where that shows up in the space that's like, oh, this is fucking good, right? And that to me is like, oh, all right, like that tapping in is into a level of flow that feels really, really good. And so then it's like, and then it's contagious. Like, it's like, oh, then the people around me, oh, ah, you know, moving it out. So
Yeah, I think about the manifesting sheet that we created for the community. What was it during accountability? Where it's like your intention plus net mechanism equals results. And 2 weeks ago, I taught it as your intention is your why, the mechanism is the how, and the result is what you're manifesting. But for me, the intention, like all that you just said, is like your intention, and you could tell how you were connected to your heart because your intention, your why is connected to your heart. And we tend to live in the mechanism, which is the how, like, oh, but I gotta, yeah, exactly, right. And so many
it's
people,
so boring, as
it's
I
so
like to tell
boring,
you.
right? But we get to surrender the how. Like the more you get committed to tapping into your heart connects you to your why. Your why is your intention. Your why is the thing that keeps you devoted to the cause, even when the how makes you roll your eyes like Jamie just did. And it's because the how is not going to connect you to your heart. The how is not going to excite you. The mind is only going to protect you. And this is not saying you shouldn't think, y'all. I'm like a lot of Virgo placements. I got Virgo stellium. I love to think. I got Scorpio and I've got Mercury and Scorpio. Thinking is my jam, but it is the actual connection to your heart that expands. So I think courage, like really the spirit of this month, being here in this container as we navigate through Cafecito and all these things that we're doing, it's like, how can you tap into your heart to take it to the next level? How can you grow from your heart, not from your brain? Because we've been taught to logically think through things. But the miracle happens, like Jamie said before, the things that you didn't know, you weren't going to know. And it takes you dropping into your heart to navigate those experiences. I'd love to hear in the comment box, where you get to be more courageous this month, or where you get to be held in accountability of courage, because that's what using this word of the month is for. Is like, how can we get you hold you high to support you into this courageous spirit? Like, where do you get to be courageous, and how can we support you in that?
Where are
Yeah.
you going to be courageous, Alona?
Huh?
So where are you going to be courageous?
And this is like, it's like my same story right now. Like, I get to be courageous with abundance. And, I've been really sitting in the contemplation, which is, yeah, raising my prices. For me, it's not even raising my prices fee. Like, it's literally just going for the sale. And I just finished Fee's Healthy Biz course. And that's definitely something that I'm aware of, that like, for some reason, I get stuck in the analysis paralysis of creating content and not going for the call to action, because there's some kind of fear here that says, how dare you give value and not ask for payment? How dare you give value and not say, hey, you can sign up for my newsletter? And so I think the courage is like getting really comfortable with going for the ask and not being afraid to ask, and like really allowing abundance to come through, because I actually asked and not being like, I hope they're gonna wonder what else I can do for them. So let's see what everyone else. How dare I give away so much money and get into, yeah, exactly. So Solange says, I've been telling people how I feel about them, and I want a relationship without the judgment or shame. So that's where you get to be courageous. Awesome. Fee, courageous in raising prices. Solange, whether it's a new boundary or an honest desire, I really get to jump into my courage and jump off that limb and go for it and bring my vision to life, release the fear, focus on the why. Yeah, but Janine, specifically, what limb are you jumping off of? I am jumping off of the financial limb and being like, I'm done not sourcing new clients and not asking. Fee is jumping off the limb by raising her prices. Solange's in Solange, what desire? What's the new boundary? But yeah, I got to tell you. So Janine, you asked for the sheet, so I'm going to bring it in. Okay, girl. All right, Solange, there you go. Now I'll put the sheet in the link below, but it's also, is it in the community, Jamie?
It's in the community. I think it's on the accountability replay, but yeah, we can post it again.
And so this is what's really important. I want you to all hear this. When you're looking at the sheet, intention plus mechanism equals results. Results is what your manifestation is. And this isn't like I'm manifesting and hoping it happens. No, that's like what you specifically declaring specifically clearly what you want is how you can use your intention, that heart-centered devotion, to make what you want make happen. But Janine, like right now you're saying I'm jumping off a limb and making it happen, but we're not hearing what is the declaration. When you're not clear, like, right? Huh? Oh, she did?
She put it in there. Read it.
Create my sex and positive community. There you go. Right? Like I used to say I want abundance, but abundance didn't necessarily mean I want financial freedom. I want financial abundance. So I was creating a lot of abundance. I created abundance of opportunities, abundance of connections, abundance of magic swaps. But I'm like, I need to get paid and pay my bills. So I get to say, I get to create literal financial abundance. So anyone watching the replay, when you're looking at the sheet on the results part, that is your manifestation. It gets to be specific, because if you're vague, then the universe will only give you vagueness.
You want to hear what me and Rebecca White discovered the other day? And
yeah.
It's so fucking hilariously funny. Okay, we were lining up how ChatGPT or any of the AI, whatever things, are basically like speaking into the universe. All right, so you're ready to hear this, whatever? So like, when you put in a vague question or a vague request into ChatGPT, it gives you like a 3-sentence, like, meh. And you're like, that's not what I want, right? And so you have to hit the plus button and like give a better inquiry.
Yeah.
A better inquiry. Give a better inquiry, right? And so like the more specific you are and the more you put into the universe, if you're like, I want abundance, and it's like, here's an abundance of crackers. And you're like, not fucking crackers. What are you talking about? And it said they're like, you want an abundance of something. We don't know what the something is, right? So then it's like, oh, okay. I want an abundance of money. All right, well, like an abundance of money to you might be, $100,000. An abundance of money to, some other person might be $1 million, right? Or an abundance of money to somebody else could be like $10. Be fucking specific in the money, right? Like, it's like, okay, I want to pay my bills. Well, paying your bills is not an abundance, right? That's just the base minimum, right? It's like, I want to live the life that I want to have, right? Last year, my word of the year was allowing, which is like to give permission to. And the idea was, I give permission to have the greatest life ever, right? And I was like, ooh, what does that mean? And every time I was out of alignment with that, you could see it. I was like, oh, I'm giving permission to bullshit. I am giving permission to like overworking. I am giving permission to not abundance, right? I am giving permission to a bunch of shit I don't want to be doing. And so like in the ChatGPT thing, Rebecca White and I was like going through it, and she was like, I'm going to write it out and then I'm going to put it into ChatGPT and see what the answer is, right? Like I'm going to put the inquiry in and see what it spits out. And is that in alignment with what I want? Because then I can see if I'm asking a good question.
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
I fucking love this. I love that we're going to take AI and like universe it in. And so the idea is like how to like take what you really, really want and what the desire is, and to be okay with desire. I mean, I think that like many of us were taught as like women of the world to be able to hold back desire. We might be okay with like need, we might be okay with want, but fucking desire is hard. Like, because like if when you ask people what is your desire, a lot of times they have no answer because it feels
Mm.
like frivolous. It feels whatever. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it's like, and like, do you have, if you also do not know your desires, does that mean that you know your boundaries? Right? Like, do you know the boundaries that you are holding to be able to have the desires that you want? And I think that those two things like always kind of fall into it. I have missed the entire chat that's going crazy.
Well, real
So
quick though, on that too, like when you're, so if we really continue to repeat and continue to go into the fact that courage is being in your heart, when you are in your heart and you are courageous from your heart, like, and you're devoted to your cause and you're clear on what is going to motivate you, you can be clear on your boundaries. This is
yes,
why manifestation and doing what you want is not about the plan, the logical plan. The logical plan is the last piece. But if you're not clear on what you want specifically, and you're not connected to your heart, the courage of why this matters, then we're going to be weaker in our boundaries because we're not really clear on why it matters. We're not going to be that warrior of devotion to the things that we're calling in. And Sophie, like I saw that, like Sophie's thing was like she gets to have courage to handle integrity and boundaries with someone on a payment plan that doesn't want to continue payment. When like I think about like this, so in a lot of leadership containers, they talk about enrollment, and enrollment, like people think, oh, it's just signing people up for the program so that they don't have to do marketing. But really, enrollment is the magic of understanding how to get into someone else's shoes to see what you are thinking and how you both can work together. So when you're, Sophie, when you're encouraged, you're clear on your heart-centered why of why you do the thing, why you do this work. So that when you're having this conversation to put up your boundaries, you're not actually in the boundaries of the defense of why you have to protect the integrity of being paid, but you remind the person the boundaries of why this work matters and why like why this isn't something you're not going to let go because of the impact that this work has, rather than being like, you sign a contract and that's the rules, right? It's like, hey, so what happened from the time, right? Like, because when we came into this, like our hearts were like, this matters for this person. We're going to make this happen. It's a very different conversation when you come from your heart and your why than from the defense of someone didn't uphold their part of the contract. Does that make sense? Courage is
yes.
like really getting into that heart-centered space for even this like co-relational experiences.
And I think that like a lot of like when you think of courage, right? And it's like, okay, if you're going to have that level of devotion to what you want, you've got to be clear, right? You cannot be wishy-washy in devotion. You cannot be wishy-washy in integrity, right? Like you can't, and you can't be wishy-washy in courage, right? Like it's not, you can't half-ass it. It's not a partial. It is a space where you're like, oh, I'm all in. And can feel when you're not all the way there, right?
Mm.
You know that feeling of like partial boundaries. You know that feeling of like like sort of like I'm sort of in, right? And it's like, what if you weren't sort of in? What if you were fully into your own life? What if you were like, fuck it, I'm going all in. I'm gonna like, I'm going to put out into the world like what I actually want to happen. And like over and over again, we talk about this, but like when you are in alignment and when you are putting those things out there, the universe delivers. Sometimes it takes a little longer than you'd like, but it delivers. And so like also looking very like much at the parts, what have you been putting out there And like, where do you need the courage to clean that up? Right? Like, oh, I know when I am out of alignment in my own like what I am saying in the world, right? Like if I'm telling people that shit's a shit show, it's a shit show. Like, like, well, I'm just gonna attract more of that. Like that's not very fun. Like that's not very interesting, right? When I am out of, when I feel like things are not working, I can't hide it, right? Like there's no hiding it. So then it's like, you can stay in the integrity of saying like the truth, but also like, what do you believe is coming? What, like, why are you doing the things that you're doing? So
Yeah.
it's good. It is good. I like all these. There's a lot happening over there in the chat.
Solange
Yeah.
getting very specific about what she gets to call in.
Listen, you stay in alignment over there. Stay in alignment of what you are calling in and the prerequisites. I think also people like out in the world are surprised by that level of integrity.
Yes. Yes.
Often. Like when you are very, very clear on what you want and what you need and how you are getting there, I think it is super interesting to see what shows up and what falls away and how quickly, right? Like when you're like, I want to do these things, like people are surprised. The amount of people, okay, like if anyone doesn't know, I'm doing this thing in October where I am going up a mountain 17 times. I have been wanting to do this for so long. It's called the 29 It's a, like, you go up it so that you get to the elevation of Everest. I am super excited about this. I am also terrified. I'm also doing it with my brother, who's like a fucking super athlete. I'm scared. Okay. So the fear is there. And me and my brother signed up on a team that is raising money. So I also have to raise a ton of money by then. I have to raise $7,000. Our goal is 20,000 between the two of us. My brother is really close to his side of the goal, and I am slacking because I had not been putting it out there because I was moving very slowly. And so this idea of like the people that have said to me, why are you doing this? There's two things that people say. Why are you doing this? And why are you doing this? Are very different energy, right? Like there's so many people that are like, oh my God, you're going to be amazing. I can't wait to see you do this. It's going to be such a cool goal. It's, those people I'm in alignment with, right? The people that are like, why are you doing this? Like, I'm like, why the fuck not? Like, this is like one of those things. I'm like, it's totally safe. I'm on a mountain in Vermont, for God's sakes. Like, it's a totally sponsored event. There's first aid at the bottom, the middle, and the top. Like, I'm not gonna die. I mean, I keep joking around about like I don't want to die on the mountain, but I mean, in the term of I don't want to die on the mountain is like I don't want to look like an asshole in front of my brother. Honestly, that's the entire thing. So I'm like in that like space of like, if those are the things that you're putting out there, like, oh God, why would you do something that challenging? Why would you do something that hard? Right? Like, that's not the energy I want to be around. Like, I want to be around the energy where people are like, yeah, why the fuck not? Like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Oh, that's going to be hard. What are you doing for training? Oh, do you need any help with these things? That's the piece where it's like, those are the people that are like, I feel into that expansion and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Right. Like I will finish this thing. In 36 hours, I will somehow go up this thing 17 times if I have to fucking crawl on my hands and knees. Like, I don't care. I'll do it. But like, when you see who's coming at you in different ways, it's really interesting to see where they are lacking in that courage.
Yeah. And like Fee says, being declarative and in integrity makes some people jealous or uncomfortable. Seeing someone doing that hits a wound in them. And that's absolutely right. And that's also part of courage, right? Like courage is like giving yourself permission to take up the space and go for the things you want, to live authentically, because let's call a spade a spade. A lot of us here are here because we're living authentically. There are a lot of people in the world that are basically real life zombies. They wake up, they eat, they go to work, they go to sleep, they lather, rinse, repeat. And it takes a lot of courage to be like, I'm going to do it differently. And when someone sees someone doing things differently, there's a little bit of getting jealous or triggered, because it challenges their lifestyle. Instead of saying, hey, good for them, they're living their life. That's probably some of the first few times that some people who are asleep go, oh, is this really what I want? Why don't I want that? Why am I doing the lather, rinse, repeat? Should I not be lather, rinse, repeating? And it takes people who are courageous. Yeah, it pokes a hole in their narrative. It not just their narrative, it pokes the hole in the whole freaking reality. This is like the whole Matrix red pilling, right? So, and what is it? I don't need to feel bad about myself. No, you never do. No one, here's the thing. No one should ever feel bad about what they do. But the thing is, we've got a collective, like I think about all like Hunger Games, Divergent, The Matrix, a lot of people are following the flow, and a few people are waking up to be like, I get to do it differently. And
Yeah.
it's, and it's hard to be the one who's going to do it differently when the collective agreement is we don't do things differently.
I mean, and like the thing that I find so interesting is that people will like totally idealize somebody that has done something differently and won, and like, oh, they did it, that's amazing, that's like so like they have so much initiative and they have all these things, right? But like for the people that are like trying to do something differently, they're like, oh, hold on, don't step outside the box, you might die, right? And you're like, I think I'm gonna be all right, right? Like in this like space of like why do you want to like listen to those people? I like probably about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I was like, I had redone all of my programs like for my coaching program, and I was like, and I had this program called the Fuck Yeah Life, right? This offended people in ways I couldn't have imagined. First of all, why are you surprised that I would have a program called the Fuck Yeah Life? So I was like, you're out of alignment with me if you are shocked by this idea that I would run something called that, let alone call you into action to live a life that's just full of fuck yeah, right? Like, why are you shocked? This is who I am, right? And so this idea of like, who do you want to be? How do you want to be different? What is your true north? What are you leaning into? And like also the people that are very, very, very happy in the lather, rinse, repeat. Yo, I wish I could live there. Like, dude, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I am not asking you to ever do any of the things that I am going to do. I know that I have an incredibly high risk of like, I am headed towards risk. That's where I live, right? That's how I've always lived. That's how I always want to live. I will take that leap 100 times. A lot of times that ends up with me like face down in some dirt. I am good with that. I have no desire. I am not dragging anybody off the cliff with me. If you hang out with me, I mean, okay, maybe I'll drag you a little, but like, I am not trying to like peer pressure anybody else into living the way I want to live, right? But in that, I fully expect you to watch what I am doing and to be like, good. I expect, right? You don't have to come with me. You don't have to jump on the train. You don't have to whatever. I might inspire you to. I might push you a little, but I am not going to but I also expect you not to drag me into lather, rinse, repeat. And I also can't imagine why you'd want to put me in there. I'd be like a feral cat in the shower. Like, it's a bad idea, like, what are you thinking? So, like, that expansion, like, do I care about those people's opinions? No. Like, and it was weird. It was my mom. She was like, I can't believe that you're holding a class like this. And I was like, one, you are not my ideal client. Two, why are you surprised? You gave birth to my crazy ass. Like, are you serious? And it was like, people are commenting on this thing. I'm like, who? And why would I care? Like, where did this come from? And it was like, this was this thing that, like, I was shocked by the backlash. And it was so, like, it was so unexpected to me. And it was coming from all these random places because I used the word fuck. I don't know. I like, to this day, it was 8 years ago. I'm still confused. And I was like, all right, like, that is what it is. And the work around it for me was like, do I care? The answer was no.
Yeah, and the other thing, what like one of your what you're highlighting really is a reminder that when you're, because courage comes from core in your heart, when you're tapping into your heart, the people around you are going to be using their brains and using the sympathetic nervous system to protect you. Like it's usually the people closest to you that are the least aligned to your most courageous acts because they're like, this doesn't feel safe. And they're going to try to use their brain and their sympathetic nervous system to convince you to betray your heart. And this is not a bad thing. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings are not facts. They are true. The feelings are real, but they're not facts. And the more you can begin to listen to what your heart says over the noise of even those closest around you, the more courageous of a life and the more aligned life you'll be living, is what I was coming up for me when you were sharing that. Because y'all, I did a complete life change at 37 years old. My dad died unexpectedly. I had a career. Like I was traveling the world. I was like literally experiencing this world on someone else's dime for most of my life. And I was like, I'm done. I don't know how I'm going to make it work. Like literally, I didn't know how I was going to make it work. I had no proof that it was going to work. I had no proof, I'm still in that like proving to myself that this is going to happen. Truly, that's where I'm courageously at. And I had people that are like, you shouldn't quit your job. Everyone knows you for this. You're doing so well. Look at all the things you've seen. And at this age, how dare you move in your mom? You're going to be great gardens. And I'm like, no, not like that's not the vision. That's not, you guys aren't getting it. And the more you're clear in your heart with what your intention is, the more you can just be you, the more you can and that's actually, I ultimately think, to be honest with you, I think that courage is a pathway to trust. When you can tap into your heart and believe, be devoted, like we say, devoted to your heart-centered mission, and you go forward there, you will likely begin to see proof that what you desire is actually your path, and you begin to trust yourself rather than
Yes.
the fear brain protection that helps you play small and looks for proof of things going wrong.
Yes. And like, without the courage, you cannot make it to trust. You can't, because, and then it's just like a bridge to land, right? Like there's just a bunch of bridges to each level of trust, and you just have to have the courage to like step forward onto that bridge. And like, sometimes those steps are like, oh, I'm walking on a fucking rope, like single rope bridge, and sometimes it's like a solid steel structure, but like that piece of courage is there to be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking try. Like, let's see what happens. And being around other humans that believe in that type of trust or have made it to the other side of that bridge, like that is where you find the like support that you need. Is like the space that pulls you into it. And so like the like how you get there is like, the courage is that bridge to the next level of trust, to the next level of what you want. And like, what is that feeling? And how do you get there?
Mm-hmm.
I like. It's gonna be an interesting month, y'all.
Yeah. So courage. So we saw courage to set boundaries for people who don't want to pay us, courage to do the things that we want to do. Is there anyone else who gets to clearly declare what they're getting to be courageous about this month so we can witness and support. Yes. Do you have an accountability? Jeanine, you should go into also your accountability team. I was thinking all of us get to
Yes.
support each other and your
Yes.
accountability team. Yeah. But yes. And by the way, Jeanine, we're waiting. We see you on that. We see you on that branch. We know you're ready. We know you're ready. We're ready. We're like, we're on the ground going, rooting you on. We're like ready for you to jump.
I heard through grapevine that your website is almost done too.
Love that.
So
Love that.
I like love this. And yes, I think it is like, this is also like why community is important. This is why having a collective is important, because like when you can express into a space where you can say, this is what I need the courage to do, you know that other people are A, standing on the bridge with you, B, cheering for you, and C, like ready to like walk you across, right? And oh, the branding, not the website. Okay. And like it is that space of being able to be like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to drop into my heart and like really allow that to come out and really allow that space of like, this is where it's going, you know? And like, it is in that space that feels like anything is fucking possible. I mean, I think to me, like, I love to live in possibility, right? Like, I am always into this, like showing up, right? Being there, like really doing the connection, like anything is actually possible. And so, like, when you are in that space of possibility, when you are in that space of like, okay, like, how do I get there? It is always stepping back into the courage, right? It is always like, all right, if I'm moving and then all of a sudden I am not, like, dude, you're taking a deep breath and dropping back into the courage so that you can lean forward, right? It is the heart opener. It is that space of like, all right, who do I need to help me make this thing happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like stepping into that space that feels like, oh, okay, this is it. This is it. This is the piece, right? And like, oh, what does that feel like?
Yeah.
I like, what are we doing with the fear? Because I think the thing that's always interesting, right? Like one of the things that I always have like this space of is that like courage and fear are married, right? Like they're near each other. They're stuck together. Maybe they're in a shitty ass relationship, but they're married, right? And you're like, and like there's this idea of like, oh, all I have to do is be courageous. Like all I have to do is that. But like fear is a feeling that is true. I mean, or is there, but not necessarily true. What did you just tell me? Like it is real, but not true. There you go. So
feelings are real, but not fact.
And so like with the fear, like I love the Elizabeth Gilbert, like you can ride in the car, but you cannot touch the radio. You're definitely not driving fear. Thanks. You're going to sit over here and you're going to like, you can be a passenger and I will acknowledge you. And sometimes I'm going to put you in the back seat. And like, if you want to ride in the trunk, that's also cool. But like, I'm not allowing you to like turn up the radio. You're not in control of the music. You're not in control of the snacks. You're not in control of all of the pieces. And so like in that space of like when the fear comes, like what are you doing with it? And I think it's good to know before you get there, right? Like I think one of the things that really is like helpful is like, okay, when fear comes, I'm going to look at this list. These are the things I'm going to physically do. Like, you know, it's like, these are the questions I'm going to ask myself. These are the things I'm going to physically do. Because a lot of times fear is just a physical manifestation in your body, right? Like the anxiety comes and you're like, oh, I'm going to like clip out onto something. And like, what are you doing to like anchor yourself off of that like island, right? Like you're like, oh, okay, I live here over on courage now. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah. We're just getting some of the copy. Fear is always going to be there, but she's moved from riding shotgun to getting the back. Yes. and repeating into my habits, repeating what works instead of trying 29 different things. Yes,
Yes.
courage creates consistency. Courage creates consistency of all one's authentic self. I see fear as a benchmark to level up and stepping into the next level for me. Yeah, that's exactly what Jamie said at the beginning. It's like, it's what's going to allow you to jump off and go to the next step. And so I want you all to go back to the manifestation sheet that we created. And I want you in the intention piece, and I'm glad we're recording this so you can go back. So the equation is intention plus mechanism equals results. So I'm going to give directions. So in intention equals the how, and that is the courage that's coming from the heart. So intention is your how centered, courageous why, your how centered, your heart centered, courageous why. And then plus mechanism is the how, and mechanism was activates the fear. So when we add courage plus the fear, but what we actually get to do is look at the fear, but eliminate the fear. Like look at it and say, you exist, but I don't feed you. That's when we manifest, especially when the manifestation is specific. So intention plus mechanism equals results. Intention is your courage. It's your why, plus the fear, which means I'm going to witness the fear, but I'm not going to feed it, equals your manifestation. That's how I want you to use the sheet for this month.
Yes. I was trying to find the sheet to just drop it in, but I can't pull it up right now, but we will put it on we will put it on this recording, and then we'll also put it up in the group. But I think that it really is that idea of getting super clear, right? If you're going to take your intention and drop it into ChatGPT, like, what's it going to tell you? Like, are you like really, really clear on what you want? Are you really, really clear on like where you're heading? Are you really, really clear on like what your desire is? Are you really, really clear on like what your boundaries are? What are you going to not do? And what are you also okay doing? When you're thinking of those pieces and how they get there, right? Like, I recently, like, I was talking to a lot of people about this already, but like, I got so tired of my own mediocrity. Like, I literally was like tired of myself. I was like telling Allie, I mean, it was like the most hilarious discussion with me and Allie. Like, I'm like, I'm so tired of myself. Like, and sometimes you have to get there, right? Like, you have to get to that point. And I realized, like, as I went through that conversation, it was because I had stopped doing all the things that made me feel really good and stopped doing all the things that were in alignment for the greater good. Like, I was doing an enormous amount of work that was like putting together things. And thank you. Like, taking those things and putting them together, taking the pieces and like making these sales funnels and making this thing work and making our website work and making this thing happen, right? And like, I was doing so much of that I wasn't doing any of the things that bring me any form of joy, right? I was stepped out of it because it needed to get done, and it needed to get done, and it's finished, or mostly finished. But like, and I was like, oh, I have an incredible team of people. Oh, I have all these pieces. So like, where do I get to have the courage? So like, dude, people will get their fucking work done. It's not my problem. Like, they know how, that's their zone of genius. They can stay over there. That's great. And so like, stepping into that courage of like, oh, what I'm really good at is connecting people. Oh, what I'm really good at is having conversations with them to get them to do the things that they want to do. Where is that space of the up level? And like, when you get tired of your own mediocrity, like, where are you heading? Like, I was like, my word of the year is both and of course it's kicking my ass as usual, but in the both and of it, right? Like, where do I get to shift it like into the and so I've been like, okay, my word of the quarter is excellence. I'm tired of my bullshit. I'm tired of my own shit. So I'm like, oh, where do I get to find excellence? And a lot of that stuff is in the helping your future self, right? Like, okay, I have this fucking plan of workouts that I have to do for the next 25 weeks that I have to get done. I do not have a lot of time, right? So I'm like, this has to get done. And what are the things that make it easier, right? It's such stupid things. I have to meal plan. I have to take my workout clothes and put them together so that I have pants and a tank top and underwear and a sports bra and socks in a thing so that when I go to get dressed, I'm not looking for anything.
Yeah.
This is stupid shit, but this stuff leads to excellence. I am not making decisions and decisions and decisions. And the decisions is where I fall into mediocrity. I'm like, it's too much. I'm not fucking thinking about it. That's it. So
yeah. And this is not to say mechanism doesn't matter. Like Jamie just like, what I'm hearing is like mechanism matters, but you have to start with your why. If Jamie didn't care enough about this thing, the mechanism doesn't matter. You can create mechanisms, my friends, everyone here, Animas, there are mechanisms for everything. But if there's not a reason why you're not in the, why you are in the mechanism, you're a hamster in the wheel that's going to die on spinning because you don't know what's the motivation for getting off the wheel.
Yes. And I think that the big,
this is the heart.
yes. And the big piece is like, if you can connect the mechanisms to your why. I know why I was doing all the shit 3 months ago in the last 3 months, right? I know why. So like, that was what kept me going. I also know that I can't do that shit forever, right? So it's like, okay, like if you, like the mechanisms are there to help your why. The mechanisms are there to promote it.
That's why it's intention. That's why it's intention plus mechanism, not mechanism plus intention. We start with the intention. Intention is where courage lies.
I like this. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting month. In here, I am very excited to see where you guys step into your courage. I'm very excited to see where the things begin. We would love to help you across that bridge. We want to see what you're doing. We want to know what it is. We are trying to level up as well. So thank you for watching in the process and all of those things. And like, we have a new form that is going out for, if you have events that you want to promote, we will put them out in all of our emails. You just fill it out. It's going to be on the bottom of all of our emails so that you can just press it whenever you want. We will also post it in Mighty Networks. If you would like to teach a masterclass or Wellness Wednesday, we have a new form for that too, and it makes it so much easier. We are planning our masterclasses and Wellness Wednesdays till September. So if you want something between now and September, now's the time. We've got a lot of other things coming up in those pieces. Yes, Janine, fill out the form. This month, there's a lot of cool shit happening. There is Cafecito every single Monday morning, as you know. Miami in-person Cafecito has moved to the last Friday of the month. This month, it happens to also be on my birthday. So if you're in Miami, you should come. That day also happens to be Ilona's book launch.
That night.
That evening, that night. So you should go to Cafecito and then you should go to the book launch. And then the whole day you should be telling me happy birthday. So I think that's a good plan. Vivian also.
The 28th is going to be a busy ass Friday. Yes.
It's going to be a busy ass Friday and it's going to be super fun. We also have the Metaverse Collective. Lillian will be teaching how to use Web through AI in the Metaverse Collective. Wellness Wednesday is going to be with Adelise, connecting your pleasure without involving your genitals. Our masterclass is on the 21st. It's going to be how to use your business intuition with Nikki Novo. If you've never done any of Nikki Novo shit, it's amazing. So that is going to be really good.
April 28th is the busiest Friday.
Our Cafecito is going to be on Monday, the 24th. We need a host for Cafecito. The last Cafecito, we are coming back to having guest hosts. So if you would like to host, let me know. And on May 7th, we are having a meetup in New York. So if you're in the metropolitan area and you would like to meet up in New York, we're going to be doing a picnic in the park at Little Island Park. It's going to be awesome. If you have any New York people that should be in here, this is what you send them to.
Yes.
As always, everybody is an affiliate. So if you would like to bring any members in, you get paid. It's lovely. We really believe in the fact that the community is only built by the community. And so I always want to be creating a win-win for everybody. So this is the way that we can pay you back for bringing your amazing people in here. So if you have any questions about any of that, talk to Alona. We are going to be sending out some affiliate emails next week, and anything you need to know will be on there. We love all of you. Have an incredible month. It's going to be fun, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.